The Room of Requirement is a really fun mechanic in Hogwarts Legacy, but it's also incredibly restrictive early on in the game, and unless you focus on its specific questline, which has dozens of subquests, you often don't reap the benefits of it until you sink around 20 plus hours into the game, or eventually come back around to re-picking up that same questline. So I'm going to walk you through a couple suggestions, recommendations, and good things to know about it, so you can get the most out of this Room of Requirement mechanic in-game. And my thanks to Warner Bros. Here in the UK, who sent me across an early access code last week, so I was able to complete the game and create this guide for you. So hopefully it provides you with some further insight on whether this is worth your attention early on in the game. Now let's go through all the requirements you need to meet before everything is unlocked first, and no pun intended there, by the way, but that's because it is quite ambiguous in the game when everything becomes accessible to you. And then I'll take you through each section of the room, such as gear and upgrades, potions and plants, and beasts and breeding. Now you'll know you're on the right track because this room will initially unlock through a main story mission in your quest log, which is called the Room of Requirement. And if this hasn't popped up yet, just make sure you're completing all the available yellow quests in your log, and it will eventually appear, which is around a few hours or so in game. Now Professor Weasley will introduce you to the room and will provide you with a couple follow-up quests that will teach you Evanesco, which allows you to remove all the items in the room, as well as the Conjuration spell, which allows you to summon items into the room. And then she'll give you another side quest called Interior Decorating, which teaches you the Alteration spell, which additionally allows you to change the appearance of all the items in the room. So make sure you speak to her and complete all these quests to start with. They're very important before you can unlock anything else. Now the resources you'll need to conjure and alter everything in your room is Moonstone, which can be found in the Scottish Highlands. But a quick farming tip I've found here, because if you sprint around the room casting the Evanesco spell on the pre-established items loaded in by the game, you can earn hundreds of Moonstone in your first few minutes and start with a blank canvas to make your own mark. You're also going to come across a lot of cosmetic rewards in the game which can be summoned into your room, and the only way to earn these decorations is by looting chests all across the world, and I couldn't find any vendors that sold them specifically, so it's going to be a bit of a loot grind to get the full customizable experience. Now there's also 4 different vivariums which will unlock for you as you progress through the Room of Requirement questline, and they will trigger cutscenes when you re-enter the room. These are environmentally different spaces to keep your animals and beasts in, with a maximum capacity of 12 beasts per vivarium, so 48 animals when you unlock everything, providing you with resources at just one time. But again, more on that later, because you'll need to complete the quest the Knapsack and the Loom from the house elf Deek before any of these vivariums appear. But for that quest to pop from Deek, you'll need to attend your first magical beast class, which only becomes available in chapter 2 at level 13, which you will know you've entered in after progressing through the main story and seeing the autumn cutscene pop up on your screen. Now after you complete the magical beast class with Poppy, you can speak to Deek, who will then take you through a tutorial on how to capture beasts out in the wild, and this is where the magical beast icon will appear on your map, which if you hover your icon over it will tell you what animal resides there. Now after finishing this quest, you will unlock the Enchanted Loom and Desk of Description, which means if you loot unidentified gear in the game, you can head back to your Room of Requirement, head over to the desk and discover what it is, as well as being able to upgrade your equipped gear items so you can increase your stats to become a more proficient witch or wizard. You'll need resources from your animals to do this though, but just know there's 3 upgrade levels for each gear item at the Loom, with each level increasing the offense and defense stat bonuses of that specific item, which means you can increase your spell damage output in combat and reduce the damage taken when you're hit from spells from enemies. You can also add traits to blue gear pieces and above from the Loom, which allows you to add specific and unique buffs to your gear item depending upon how you like to play. So for example, I have imbued my Draconic long coat here with a trait that increases damage with Expelliarmus, as I use that spell quite a lot in game. And with this trait mechanic, it is very similar to the gear upgrade mechanic, as there's 3 levels, with level 3 traits offering you the best benefits and performance if you slot them into your gear item. And really good to note here, you can pick up these traits and rewards in collection chests at bandit camps and castles throughout the world, as well as complete combat challenges in your challenge menu. So all right then, we've got the basis unlocked in our room, but how do we take advantage of the potions and plant system so we can always have our tool wheel filled for easy access in and out of combat? Well, this may sound counterintuitive, but I would recommend that you leave the conjuration of the potion and plant tables alone and not spend your time engaging with this mechanic until you have enough gold to be able to purchase the 3-slot medium pot table, the 2-slot large pot table, and the T-shaped potion table from the Tombs and Scrolls vendor in Hogsmeade for a combined total of 8,000 galleons, which is the gold currency in game. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, you won't have many potions ingredients which you collect by exploring the open world by the time you unlock this room, nor will you have purchased these seeds from the Magic Neep shop to then grow the best plants you need for your potions in those plant pots, which means that the potions and plants you can brew aren't very beneficial from a gameplay perspective earlier on in this game. Secondly, the only tables that you can conjure when you just unlock this mechanic are quite restrictive in the sense that you can only brew one potion at one time, or so one type of plant in a small plant pot, which again isn't an effective use of your time in my opinion. And thirdly, the best way you can benefit from this in-game mechanic is after you purchase these conjuration tables from the vendor in Hogsmeade, is to then set them up in a nice row. So once they have finished growing or brewing, you can just walk down this production line, looting all the resources before you head out to quest. Now, of course, you're going to need some gold to purchase all of these table schematics, and the best way I've found early game to do this is to utilize the Disillusionment Charm, which is one of the first spells that you will learn via a quest line with Sebastian in Hogwarts. And once you've got that spell, you can then sprint around Hogsmeade spamming the Revelio charm to locate these disillusionment chests, which will only open whilst you're stealth. Now, these chests provide you with 500 gold a pop, and there is a dozen of them in Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, which you can access very early, of course. So this is the quickest way I've found to get your room operating at a maximum production value. Now, there's also a couple more purchases that you can make at Tombs and Scrolls, including the hopping spellcraft pot that produces a random potion, as well as the material refiner that produces moonstone, and the chopping station that also produces a random plant. But I don't think these are a good use of your gold early game, as they're not specific enough for what we need, with moonstone production being irrelevant due to our Evanesco trick. And I would only recommend making these purchases when you have an excess of gold and have unlocked the basics that we've just gone over. Now, if this info is helping you out so far, and only if you wouldn't mind, a very swift like down below really does help me out, so thank you very much. And if you are new here, do consider subscribing. I've got lots more Hogwarts Legacy videos coming your way as quickly as I can make them, so it would be great to have you along for this crazy Hogwarts ride. Now, let's go over our beast management and breeding system, because this is something that can be a little bit repetitive if it's not set up correctly. And that's because after you've completed the beast class and the quest with Deke, as we discussed earlier, you will then be able to start placing your rescued animals into your vivariums. And as simply as I can put this, you will need to then feed them by using the feeding spell, and also pet them with the grooming spell you would have received from Deke. And as you can see here, when that happens, both of the corresponding icons above their head, when you do target them, will then turn green. And that's when you'll be able to collect your magical beast resources, which you can then use to upgrade your gear at the Loom, which we also discussed earlier. So another purchase you will want to make sooner rather than later is the feeding boxes and toy box from Tombs and Scrolls, and this will automate these processes for you, which will save you time in the long run, but you will still have to manually pet some of your animals to get all of the resources of them. And as you can probably tell, this mechanic has been designed as a whole ecosystem which permeates into all of the mechanics of the game, from beast care through to customization, with each beast providing you with a unique resource which is specific to that creature. So for example, you're not going to get Mooncar fur off a hippogriff and vice versa. Now, when you're out and about in the world, you'll have this Pokemon-esque animation pop up after activating your bag spell, and you'll need to press the square button within range of them to successfully add them to your bag. But the caveat being that they like to run away when you start this animation, almost like they don't want to be rescued. But in Hogwarts Legacy, they don't have a choice, because we've got robes to upgrade. But if they do pop out of range, you will have to start again. So in that regard, cast the Levioso levitating spell, and then cast the capture spell, and you shouldn't have too many issues of them kind of running away from you. Now, just like Pokemon again, there is a male and female option for these creatures, which are visually different and easy to identify. So when you are capturing them, try to get a male and female, because you'll then be able to breed them back at your vivariums after completing the quest Foal of the Dead, where Deke will ask you to rescue Thestrals. And again, you just need to progress through each Room of Requirements side quest, and if that's then not appearing for you, make sure you progress through the main story until Deke sends you an owl in your owl post menu. Now, after you've purchased the breeding pen from Tombs and Scrolls in Hogsmeade, you'll be able to pop one species of creature into one pen at one time. But if you've unlocked 4 vivariums, then you can have 4 pens operating at one time, 4 in each vivarium, with breeding taking around about 30 minutes apiece. Now, the benefit of doing this is that you can then sell these pets to Ellie Peck in Hogsmeade, who offers you 120 gold for each one. So having this on rotation is an excellent passive money earner when you do have it set up. and it's running smoothly. But unfortunately, selling unicorns to her doesn't increase the price, which doesn't really make sense to me, how a unicorn and a niffler can cost the same amount of money. But if you want to capture unicorns, by the way, you can head to the Forbidden Forest at night, specifically at this location, and you should find them roaming around, which is super cool, let me tell you. Now, if you're looking for more tips and tricks so you can get the most out of this game, do click the video on your screen right now, and I'll see you there in just a second. But if you're still here, my huge thank you again to Nika, who has scoured the game in detail to bring the best info to you. Butterbeer is again on her. I think she's getting a lot of rounds in at the moment, and I'll see you in that next video.